.01, .02, .03, it means that the census tract has been split. The census tract can go from 1,500 to about 8,000 in population. The Bureau prefers to hover around 4,000, and then sometimes if it gets pretty dense, what we'll do is split it, and so this is what you see in this one. And I didn't even select that one because it was a split one, I just happened to be that one. And so you see that there's some density going on. For instance, 8123 up here. And then there's 8130 to .03. That's been split 3 times. Okay. The place that I've seen the most has been split 5 times, and they're usually in urban areas. And census tracts have physical boundaries: a street, a bridge, a highway. So there's physical boundaries that abound a census tract. And so when you've got a census tract map, what you could do is, if you know the area, it gives you a relationship to where you're at. Like, oh, this is in that area. Right? Yes.
So could you, if you had an area, say you wanted to look at income, and there was sort of high income on the outline, but low income in one area, could you like get data just for that?
Sure.
That area?
Sure. And then, so this is a block group. So you remember I said census tract, block group. So block groups make up the census tract. And so this is block group 2 in that census tract, 80111. Block groups generally have a population of about 300 to 4,000. We like to keep them at about 1,500. Different than census tract, if there's some density going on, we just add a number to, just add another block group. We don't do .0s, .9s. Right? So it can go from 2 block groups 1 and block group 2 to block group 3. So you'd have 3 block groups there. And they also have physical boundaries. And here you have a block inside of a block group, inside of the census tract. So blocks are the smallest collection unit, yet we have no population thresholds for them. And so people always say that's like counterintuitive, you know what I mean? Well, a block could be, in Montana, could be 7 square miles with 3 people on it. Okay? A block in an urban city could be just 1 block with 8,000 people in it. So it would be difficult for us to set a threshold given the diversity of spread and sprawl around the country. So we don't have a population threshold for a block. So a block can contain 2, a block can contain 2, and it can contain 8,000. So those are your 3 census geographies. And now what I want to do, if you have any questions, let's get to the questions. But I want to go on the system. And I see that most of you have the capacity to go on the system. Yes, go ahead.
The tract block groups and block count definitions, are those for 2010? Those I believe they were changed.
Some of them, yeah, that's the same question she was just asking.
Sorry.
Right, yeah. So some of them have changed. Most census tracts stay the same, but for some reason, some of them change, and then that crosswalk will be up on the system pretty soon.
Oh, okay.
Would you be able to show us at least where they might put it?
Oh, absolutely, we're gonna go on the system, okay? So this is that page that I showed you before, okay? And so one of the exercises that I had for you, okay, so the first one is, let's just look at 2010 data. So for 2010 data, we're gonna go on to American Fact Finder 2. And before we do that, we have this cute little slide, I think. That whenever you're getting on the system, no matter if it's the legacy system or the new, always know your geography, because geography drives the system, right? And then always know what data you're looking for. Because some people say, all I want is income. And then you press income, and then you have 18 tables, median income, mean income, household income, like that. So try to be as specific as possible, because then you can get to your data quicker than if you're not very specific about it. And so these were, and you had those on the last. So how I get onto this system is, as I showed you in the slideshow, I first go to www.census.gov, our homepage. And I do that because if you go into 2010 census.gov, that's only going to give you the new system. And if what you're looking for is ACS data, you're not going to find it there. So if we go on to the census site, yeah, I have put my wireless card here behind it. So you can start, we'll follow through on these, but let's start thinking of what data you might be interested in, so that we can, so most of you are from Springfield or from around the area, so like what kind of data is it that you are interested in seeing? And what is it that you use the data for? So that'll help me also figure out, so some of you are grant writers, you really want to look at predominantly ACS data, and then maybe some population data. But yeah, it's really user dependent.
Oh, maybe an income or, a household income.
Okay,
Or
great.
like a neighborhood in any town. Or
Right.
if you want to.
I'm so glad that you mentioned neighborhood. Because you notice that in our geography, nowhere do we say neighborhood. Because we don't collect data by neighborhoods, because every single place has a different way of defining neighborhood.
We use the census.
But if you know what census tracts are in there, what blocks are in there, you can get a really decent profile. In Hartford, Connecticut, what the planning department did was, you know what? They said, we're going to overlay our neighborhoods. There's 17 neighborhoods in that very small town, but 17 very distinct neighborhoods. And what they did was then drew the lines around census tract boundaries, so that you know what your census tracts are, and you get the data for them, you've got a really nice neighborhood profile.
Well, the track that you were looking at,
Uh-huh.
the 801101, and also 801102, and those two are Metro Center of Springfield. So that's good.
Yeah, see, and that's something that a local person would actually know.
There's a city that has, I don't even know, it has like 6, they're called, little city towns within it. Like Montague has this, Montague Center, Turner's Falls, all those, would those be identifiable separately?
Yeah, if you know what the census tracts are, they can definitely do them. Or if they're CDPs, I don't know if they're CDPs, they might be. So if they're CDPs, you're gonna get the data based on that.
Because when I search city, they don't come up as cities.
Right, they probably wouldn't come up because it's the largest city, and then within it, they might have census designated places, and if they don't, then what you do is get the census tract for each one of those. And so when we're done with the exercises, I'll show you how to come down to that. Why are you so slow tonight?
Can you click on that?
So I like to come to this, and actually, it's a matter of preference, only because it gives me more capacity and capabilities to do that system. So I come onto the system and I click on American Fact Finder. And then I'm gonna get to the page that I showed you before. And we're gonna look at the 2010 population. So the only place that 2010 data is from a new one. So we're gonna click on Fact Finder 2, that's census.gov.
Sorry, is it the same as QuickFacts?
No, you should have been an American Fact Finder, and then highlighted Fact Finder 2. And then it should bring you up to this page. And so if you notice on this page, you could go in through the blue bars on the left. You could go in through topics, you could go into geographies, population groups, or industry codes. That's for the economic census. But since we want a population, I'm going to use the quick start feature. And the quick start feature, when we first started, was a little funky. And so it's working much better now, so we're going to try now. And what we want to know here is this topic. And the topic we want is population. So we would type in population. Okay? And then for the geography. And then we'll spell Springfield, and something should happen. So you see you have Springfield in Vermont, Virginia, and it doesn't have our selection. So we keep typing Springfield City. And it's still gonna come up for us. And then we're gonna do this. So I could hit on that hyperlink, Springfield City, Massachusetts, and hit go. So what you see here is that it brought up 605 tables. We don't want to scroll through 605 tables. So we're going to go over here to topics on the left. We're going to click on data set. And when that opens up, the first data set as of this moment that's giving you is a 2010 redistricting data file. Click on that, and all of a sudden the tables drop to 6. A little bit much more manageable, right? So I always recommend to people, if you're only interested in the 2010 data, for now look at the redistricting data, but when the summary files come up, it'll be above that. So select that, because it's going to narrow your number of tables. And so what you want to be able to do is pick out a table that's going to give you the population. None of these, other than the population estimates, give you a table. So I'm going to give you a clue that the race table, P1, includes your total population. But nowhere does it say population. So we've recommended that they put in brackets population so that people will know that's the table, because you're not intuitively going to go to the race table if you're looking for population. So you click on the checkbox of P1.
How as many tables as you do? Or now? Okay.
I can,
Oh, we didn't have the tables that you had before, but it changed. So I guess it was just that.
yeah, population estimates was in there. So you notice up on the upper left-hand corner that where your selections are, always keep looking at that, because that's what's going to drive the tables that come up. Because that's where the system is going to be looking at. So the system is going to be looking in 2010 redistricting, which is only 7 tables available, and it's gonna be looking for Springfield. So now we check P1, race, and then we say view. Then we hit view. And so it's gonna give you this table. And if we were selecting more geographies, it gives you this table with a little drop down to select the other geographies. So you see that the population for Springfield, Mass, as reported in the 2010 census, was 153,067. And then you could break it out, as this table does for you, for the people who reported 1 race, people who reported 2 or more races, and what races they reported, people who reported 3 or more races, and what races they reported, 4 or more races, and their 5 or more races, the population of 6 races. And that comes about because prior to 2000, people could only check 1 racial category. And then we got a lot of pushback from people that people were multiracial and they wanted to be able to reflect that. And so in 2000, the decision was made that people could check up to 6 racial categories. Because we recognize that the racial categories are these social constructs that apply for us in our country. But if you come from another place, you know, Colombia has quite a number of racial categories, none of which are reflected in our racial selections. So people could select some other race, or people could select all of them. And then what happens is, since the information is gathered, and then we tabulate it and then release it. Now we're hearing, this is a lot of information. And what do we do now with the people who said black and white? Do we categorize them as the black group or the white group? Well, you gotta categorize them as black and white, or 2 or more races, right? So in solving one issue, another issue has come up. But you do have your broad racial categories. And then you do have the number for 2 or more races, like that. And so you could just collapse those numbers if you wanted to. So this is how you would get population. The other thing that we said we were going to look at was a quick table for Springfield. Okay? You have a data profile. Now, just go back and show you some data profile.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please, please.
When the SF1 data starts coming out this summer, if we do this search, I think we'll get very likely just a straight population table without additional race data.
Right, each table is different.
Right, I mean, because it's a redistricting
Exactly.
data that includes some, the detailed race data.
Exactly, exactly. So what you'll have on every single table will always be the total pop over the first thing, and then whatever it is that table is looking for. This one is a redistricting one, and so what's required is that we do that racial breakdown. Okay? And you notice that on this screen, you could modify this table. So you could take out rows and that kind of stuff, if that's what you wanted to do. Or you can download the table, and this is where you can then start manipulating some of the data. So you can download it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then you can fool around with the data, however you want to do this.
The category under total, it says some other race alone. If we would want to see a breakdown of that, would that be in the summary file too? Or is there no more detail to some other race alone?
Yeah, there's not going to be any more detail on some other race alone. Okay. It's just going to be this one here, what they actually have reported. Sometimes people put things that are not in our category, so we have to capture them someplace as a tabulation. Right?
So does the census have a tabulation that's just not shared, or?
That's just not produced. You know, so if for instance, Brazilians want to know, okay, so we don't produce data on Brazilians, right? We will do that in sort of the ancestry groups. If they wanted, a special count, then we would do, if they requested it. But there's a fee attached to that, and there's lots of things that go into the whole fee structure. So that every single piece of data that we've collected, we have the data for. Doesn't mean that every single piece of data that we have, we release data for. We release data generally about what it is that people have asked us. Very special ones we don't.
So
The community group in Springfield wanted to know how many people identify racially as Puerto Rican, so that's what they do.
Well, it wouldn't be here, it'd be on the other table, let me show you another table, okay? And it wouldn't be in this file, but it would be in summary file, too.
Well, I understand that it's identified as an ethnicity, but people who identify racially as Puerto Rican.
That would not show up as something that we would release because it's not a racial category that we provided. If people wanted to know that, then they would have to do a special tab. But if you look at, when summary file comes out, one comes out, you won't know it by race, okay? Because, you know, in 2000 in Puerto Rico, for instance, the majority of the people, something like over 98,
5% said they're white.
they're white. This time, 2010, many more said black,
Oh, really?
and others said Indian. So there's, you know, it's all a self-identification. So if there's some kind of a movement going on, you know what I mean, about having people reclaim their Taino heritage, we're gonna see that increase a lot. If you wanted to see the Hispanic breakdown, you'd select P4. I'm just gonna take off P1, and then I'll review that one. Yeah, and how you really can get to that, there's a backdoor way that you can get to that number, right? So this table gives you the number of Latinos, okay, which is 36,893. And then it gives you the number of not Latinos, that's P4. Right? And then it gives you the population breakdown for the not Latinos for the broad categories. If you started subtracting, you'd get what the racial identification was for the Latinos, not specifically for Puerto Ricans. Okay. And then this gives you the same thing. Yes? Yes?
Is the map view still being constructed? We can't get it?
Right, the map view is still not up. The map view will not be up until all of the data is up on the system, then they'll do the whole mapping piece for you. Yes, go ahead.
Is there an index where we can easily see how many tracts belong to which city?
Not yet, that's the crosswalk, and that's gonna be on. And when you see, if you go to the main page, keep checking on the news section. And the moment we know, we'll let, you know, Molly know, and so that, you know, that there's a way that they get the information out. But if you look at the news section, that always tells you what releases are coming out.
And now we'll have a list of census tracts by city?
That will have all of the census tracts that changed.
Okay.
So the ones that didn't change, they won't do, but the ones that changed will have.
So to your question, I think, at least in the past, they haven't released lists of
The city.
census geographies as they match up with city and town boundaries. I think partially because they don't always.
Right.
Census tracts can cover more than one city or town. So I'll get questions about that a lot, and what we have to do is open up the PDF maps that show what the boundaries are, and then figure out, just by looking at it, what's in which one. Right now, I have a list of which census tracts and block groups are in which cities and towns.
Okay.
So I can provide that to you, but we'll probably do that again once we have
Right.
the new list of census.
That's a
boundaries.
great point, because the census tract can cross
Okay.
town boundaries. You know, so what planning departments then do is pull out what's not part of their town and then figure it out that way. So we said we wanted to see, you know, and for people, if this was a table that you used all the time, I would suggest bookmark it. That way you don't have to navigate through the system every time. You know? And so what this table says, you know, it tells you, identifies, you can't see it on the screen, but you should be able to see it on your screen. In the upper left-hand corner, gives you the number of the table, P4. Okay. It'll then tell you the title of the table. This one is Hispanic or Latino, and not Hispanic or Latino by race, for the population 18 and above. And the universe is your total population 18 and above. And what I just say is just always be cautious of your universe, because but this one is 18 and above, and then somebody will call me and say, that's not the total population. No, it's not, because it's all, the universe is 18 and above, right? And then it gives you a citation of where the data comes from. And if you just want to go back for a search, just hit the back to search. If you want us to see a quick table, remember we talked about quick tables? I'll take out the P4. I'll deselect that, highlight the quick table. See, it's so much easier when you only have your 6 tables to do. And now this is a quick table. And if we had more geographies than Springfield, show up here. So if you had multiple geographies selected, you'd be able to drop down this menu and select them. But in this case, we only had Springfield. And so what this table gives you is your total pop in the first 2 and the percentage. This is one of the few tables that gives you percentage. Total population, and then the last 2 columns is 18 and above and their percent. And again, since this is for redistricting purposes, it breaks it out into the broad racial categories, some other race, and some other race, and then 2 or more races. So they're their own collapsed. This also gives you your housing units, how many housing units. Remember I talked to you about that. This is the population, such a population in housing, and it's based on housing units. So this is something that Springfield officials will look at and say, oh, they have 61,706 housing units. That matches up with that number. Or Springfield will say, oh, wow, we've got 68,000 housing units. What happened to the other 7,000? So that's a query that they could, So there's something that we call a town question resolution. And so that's where municipalities challenge our numbers. There's a specific program for it. And they have to meet certain. So it's not on, we have 10,000 people